because you gave actually last time just a brilliant breakdown on how you actually make these picks, on how picks are seen, how you derive at something. That's what a gambling segment is, and yours are as detailed and as sophisticated as any betting breakdown I've seen on any and all broadcast and those that offer these kinds of services. I think you're the best in the business. I also think you work harder than anybody else. So that's why we're thrilled to have you on days like today, because it's perfect.
Oh, love hearing those words. I love hearing those words, man. Yeah, our Tuesday NFL show that I do with Rob Bebenek, a great Toronto comedian, is 2 hours, 45 minutes. And that's keeping it tight.
Right.
It's a battle. And I learned the first handicapper that I worked with every day, Peter Loshak, who's a legend in the handicapping business. You know, what you're talking about here is the most important thing you can do as a handicapper is listen. It's not your own work, which is extremely important, but it's listening to other handicappers and breaking games down. But he always said, listen. It's so important to listen. And you did exactly that, because I was on Washington first half plus 3.5, but we talked about the first half under being a look. One of the things that happens is on the Friday, the markets moved so much. So I didn't want to give that first half under out as a pick because it moved all the way down to 21, whereas Bebenek had got it at 22.5. That point and a half, so important. And you moved on the first half under. It was a beautiful work. And we're coming off. So one of the things I get to work with you guys, I get to work with so many great handicappers. One of them, Toronto college basketball handicapper Maxwell Smart, who is destroying NCAA basketball this week. And David was just talking about how he had listened to the UC Riverside breakdown, or how bad Northern Arizona Lumberjacks are, depending on just listening or how you move on it. And that was as easy of a casher as possible. And then Friday morning, we, as you say, the smorgasbord buffet of all this action. For today, I've got NCAA football that I would like to make official here on the show. I've got NCAA basketball, and I've got NFL. So I've got all three sports ready to rock, Mike, here.
Okay,
right
before you get to that,
Sure.
people are just listening and they're asking about the Rob thing. So Rob and you have a show on Tuesday. Now, does Tuesday recap the previous week or look ahead to the previous week? The 2 hour 45-minute show that you were telling me about.
Oh, it's all like we recap for 5 minutes. We just the one thing that we want to do the most, maybe 5-7 minutes. One thing we just want to be honest and transparent about what picks were made the week prior. That's the review. The whole show is about what's coming up. We also have a kickoff show Sunday morning, but the Tuesday show is where all of your work comes into play. I also have one on Monday in NCAA football, but it's you have to beat these market moves. You have to get ahead of the market moves. And that's why Maxwell Smart and I, we shoot now at night. I mean, we shot last night from 11:45 till 1 a.m, because if he gives you his picks an hour before tip off, you've missed a huge opportunity to beat the market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are you loving? What are you loving here today? Because you said there's lots to pick from this weekend.
So much to pick from. Let's go right now. But as we talked about honesty and transparency, I did lose that Washington first half plus 3.5. So that for official picks on the show, I'm 3-3 now. Sadly, down 0.29 units and ROI minus 4.83% with an average line of minus 108. We go to NCAA football, and again, I hit with Pittsburgh last night very easily. Pittsburgh Panthers, pick it minus 6.5. They won by 14. So starting out the week, want to know, that was my first look of the week. And some of the looks I would like to give you guys, the market's moved too far. So I have to pick a game where the market has either not moved or slightly gone against me, which then also changes your ROI. But it gives your listeners and our friends and fans who are listening the opportunity to get in at a decent price, one that hasn't moved drastically. So it is Friday night football, 10 p.m. Eastern, Nevada, San Jose State. And I'm on the San Jose State train. And, you know, there are probably looks on this card, and I'll go over what I'm on right now for the week and what's moved. But San Jose State, this is at Sam Boyd Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. 50 Fahrenheit clear, 4 miles per hour is the wind. It was supposed to be a home game for San Jose State, but as you know, the county made decisions around
That's
COVID,
right.
so the Niners don't get home games. San Jose
Close it down, yeah.
doesn't get home games. Nevada bounced back from a 24-21 loss at Hawaii with a 37-26 home win over Fresno. But San Jose, undefeated season. They went over to Hawaii and beat them easily. They were up 21-0 after the first quarter. We talk about how difficult that trip is for these young athletes. San Jose made it look so easy, and this is such a big game for them. And this is under a field goal, and I'm backing them here. Sports Interaction openness at -2.5. It's now down to -2. It was actually -1.5 5 hours ago when I was setting up exactly what games I was going to attack on the show. So -2 right now at -110, San Jose State at 10 p.m. Eastern, and I am backing them. As for my looks on this card, I moved on Arizona State over 54, and that has moved to 56. So I didn't want to, I made that bet on Monday. I didn't want to give it out now just because of that. I'm also on Utah, Colorado under. On Monday, I bet that at 50.5, and that's moved to 47.5, right?
Yeah,
So
and that's not surprising because Colorado does not score a whole bunch. I mean, and Utah has lost all their stars, including Jordan Love last year. So I look at a pick like that, and under is the play there for sure.
Under 47.5 there. Then I'm on the Nevada San Jose State under, and that's moved against me. I got that at 58. That's moved up to 59. Don't like seeing that. There's a couple moves that did move against me. I'm on Minnesota at +9.5. I could have got +10.5. That scares me. I'm on Iowa -110, and that has completely flipped from Iowa being a -2.5 point favorite. I waited till it was a pick 'em, and now Wisconsin is the favorite, which is concerning. I'm also on USC at -3.5 against UCLA. That's gone to 2.5. And then the final spot I have is the San Diego State BYU game that I'm very excited about, where I'm on the under 50, and that's moved to 47.5. So that's my NCAA football card. But for official show record keeping purposes, San Jose State -2 at -110, and that is my college football spot.
And that's one hell of a game, just so people know, in that Mountain West, which can be a little bit of a circus sometimes. San Jose State is a very good football team, and I like how consistent they have been, even when they don't play their best. Like in Hawaii, like they had to grind that one out a little bit, but still, that we don't care how it's done. You care about the cover. As David and I have also said on the show, forget favorite teams. People said, "Who's your favorite team?" I don't know. The one that I say is +2.5.
Yeah,
we're whores. It's gambling.
110.
We're complete whores. And then the next week, it's like we're completely against them. Like, but don't you have a favorite team? When I was 10, yeah, we have favorite teams. Dave loves anything Winnipeg. I go back to as a Hamilton Tiger Cat fan. But honestly, any weekend on any given weekend, maybe one week my team will be Northern Arizona. Probably the worst name for a program, the Lumberjacks. You're in Arizona. There's no trees. This is not a lumberjacking. I don't understand why you call you. You might as well call yourself the fisherman. That makes no sense. No sense.
Well, Gabe Morency who's a great capper. He often says, "Who better than you to bet against your team?" So I'm not afraid.
Dave would agree with that as a Jets fan, as a New York Jets fan. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's move over to college basketball here for this evening. Again, as I said, I get the pleasure of working with Max Wellsmart. Max broke down 8 games with me last night. 2 of them I'm attacking. And let's go right now. And the market hasn't moved on UMass. This is at 1:30 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. Little afternoon action for you guys. Northeastern and UMass, they're both making their season debuts in Amherst, Massachusetts, William D. Mullins Memorial Center. Northeastern was 17-16 last year, 99 in the conference, but they returned just one of their top 5 scorers from last season. So they also lose first-team All-CAA Jordan Rowland. They have Tyson Walker, who was a freshman last year. He's coming back, 10.4 points, 3.4 assists. You can imagine that he's going to step up here this season. But UMass, who was worse than Northeastern last year, UMass 14-17 last year, 8-10 in conference, returned their top 3 scorers from last season. A-10 Rookie of the Year Trey Mitchell, who averaged 17.7 points and 7.2 rebounds. I'm moving on UMass a full game at -6.5, and that hasn't moved right now. Although Sports Interaction did open it at -6, so it's moved a half point since the opener. But it's where I bet it, and Maxwell Smart is on that as well. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern, Milwaukee Panthers. And this is an interesting spot. So this is Milwaukee Panthers, a bad basketball team, making their debut, their season debut here. They were just 12-19 last year. They lose 2 of their top 4 scorers from last year. Senior guard Tejan Lucas returns, averaging 14.6 points per game. The situation here is Kansas State is terrible and reeling. And they're coming off an 81-68 loss at home to Div 2 Fort Hays State.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that school? What was who they lose to?
Fort Hays State. I don't even.
Oh, wow, that is.
Fort Hays was 0-3 against their Division II opponents. Fort Hays State was missing their head coach and assistant coach due to COVID, and they go in and beat Kansas State. And bad. I don't know. We often you want to say, "Oh, this team's going to bounce back." Are they going to bounce back? You're getting 9.5 points with Milwaukee. Let's see what you are getting right now with Milwaukee. Still 9.5 points.
9.5, yeah.
So those are my 2 spots in NCAA basketball that I am attacking. And the first one pops off 1:30 in the afternoon. What better thing to do than that, than hammer a little college basketball? And then finally, just to put a bow on this, and NFL was a little tricky because I cashed last night with the under 44.5, but I also lost with the Patriots, so it's a 1-on-1. I've got some spots that I like, but again, the market has moved drastically. Like I'm on the Vikings Bucks over 51.5. You can't get that anymore. The Texans Chicago over 44.5. I almost gave out here on the show, but I said not to. I like the Bills on Sunday night, but the market's moving towards the Steelers, even with all the Steelers injuries, which scared me enough not to make it an official play here. But one thing and this is dangerous when the market moves against you and you still give it out, but that's what I'm doing here. NFL, I am going to give out for everyone here and make it an official spot is the New York Giants.
Yes.
At home, you're going to get 3 points right now at Sports Interaction. And not only that, but they're giving you -3 at +100. So no juice. And what are we seeing from Kyler Murray? He's hurt. His shoulder, ever since that Dunlap hit, he's afraid to get out of the pocket. He's afraid to run. He's afraid. And these Giants believe in themselves. And now the Cardinals are traveling at 6-6 across America.
Yep.
I mean, this is MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford. It's going to be showers. You have a quarterback who's dealing with some sort of shoulder injury, and you have a Giants team that believes in themselves. Wayne Gallman running, he had 125 yards last week. Joe Judge, I expect Daniel Jones to be in the lineup. He's practicing, and you get Giants +3 at +100. Those are the 4 official plays given out here on Raw. Mike Richards.
Oh, I love it. I love it a lot. And by the way, I think all 3 of us then, Dave, are on the Giants because that was one of your picks a couple of days ago.
Unfortunately, I got him at +2.5. Now that number's jumped to 3. And more on the Murray situation because that was one of my takes too. So since this injury, so he injures his shoulder 4 weeks ago where he rushes for 61 yards, which is a typical Kyler Murray type of game. Since that time, 15 yards against Seattle, 31 yards against the Patriots, 15 yards against the Rams. He's scared to take off because when you take off, you get hit, and he doesn't want to get hit. There is something wrong. I think the Giants are a pretty good money line play. Never mind the +3, but I do have them at the +2.5, and I walked away with it. So.
Well, I took him on the money line, again, I got in too early. I'm beating myself up. I got him at +115.
Right.
Like they're +135 right now at Sports Interaction. So, and often you don't want to give out a bet where the market's moved against you.
See that, and people do fall. I mean, I know if those listening online right now, we're streaming live. Those that are listening on the radio, it is the greatest pitfall I think in listening to people who do this for a living is and transparency is ultimately very important, but that is when a line moves and you're not in control of it. Vegas is making those lines and you see something like early and you jump on it, which a lot of the kind of smart money does. And then by the time you get to the shows, like you have, for instance, traditionally in radio, when you're doing your Friday picks, well, it may be completely toast. In fact, you may not even like it, and it's probably not that unheard of that you might even go on the other side if you see if the value has changed that way. I mean, that's just the nature of what you do for a living.
Yeah, and Max has a thing which is very interesting where so when we have the night shows, he'll want a first half in the morning, and he'll say, I want the first half between -3.5 and -5.5. And if it's even better than that, if it's at -2, he doesn't want it. He has to restudy why the market has moved to that.
Wow.
He doesn't see that as a gift. He sees that as a red flag.
Interesting. Well, look, he'll be on we'll get him on too. Like Max is going to be on the show. I mean, he's going to, and we look for, anyway, sensational job again. We'll get those picks later today. They will be tweeted out. People are going to see them. They're going to hear them. And once again, love seeing you on a Friday. And we'll also do this again on Monday, just so people know when we have huge, big bags of cash.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend, pal.
Thank you guys so much for having me. The start of a big weekend.
Yes.
So let's get paid in full. And
yeah.
Thank you guys.
Let's do it. Leche, as we say. Yeah, there you